name is Yvette Fielder, and I am a program director with the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. And our Native Edge Institute, our Native Edge Institute, we have been providing for the last 4 years with the National Center, is our series on training and development for small businesses, Native American-owned businesses, and other minority-owned businesses, as well as tribal enterprises. At the National Center, we are a 54-year-old nonprofit organization, and accumulation of our year's work, we put on a large economic summit. It's the largest Native American economic summit in the country. It just finished its 36th annual one in Vegas in May, and we will be having it again in April, also at Caesar's Palace this year. And for those that came in person today, they have the opportunity, it's kind of like you have to stay to win the prize. So those that are here will receive a free registration for April. It'll be in Vegas, and you can't regift it. So just a few little rules on that. So this morning we're going to get started, and what we have found when COVID took place, we obviously went to full webinar-based trainings, and we got really good at that, and everybody really liked it. And then we even developed, okay, let's take our video team, let's have a very small socially distanced audience, and then let's edit these down into really manageable training tools that we have. And that worked out really nice. So a couple weeks ago, we were in Minnesota, and we went to an in-person event, and we had a very small audience, and that's okay, but we still had our video team crew here. They're Sky Bear Media, and they came in from Washington, and they do an excellent job at editing down our videos so that we do have it in our catalog to share with our clients. And we did have 61 people that did want to see that, so we were able to send that on to them. So I will get started here. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I'm going to introduce Chris Pierce first. She's not on the agenda. However, Chris will be speaking later today, but she is a part of our team. She is the Senior Procurement Specialist with the Native American Procurement Technical Assistance Center, our PTAC Center that we have, hosted by the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. The Native American PTAC assists American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian-owned businesses effectively acting on the federal, state, and local. Chris works with businesses in the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA Eastern Region. She has a much longer bio, but she's ready to go, and she's going to share a few words with us also. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. I want to welcome you all here. Some of you I already know because you're my clients. If you're not my clients yet, please make sure you introduce yourself to me because I'd love to work with you. Yvette gave you a little history of the National Center. I can give you a little history of the National Center in the BIA Eastern Region. I came east in 1992, and I've been working in the region ever since. But as of 2019, we have an office in Liverpool, New York. So our northeast presence is in Liverpool. I have offices with Lockheed Martin, with the radar and sonar unit there. I'm accessible. Unfortunately, we opened the office and COVID happened, so haven't been accessible. But for any of you that want to make the trip to Syracuse, or if you have a business and economic development themed event going on in your community, please reach out to me because we would love to be there and meet clients. As Yvette said, I'm with the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We help Native American businesses, American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian businesses get into government contracting. That's not just federal, although predominantly that's what our clients want to know about is federal contracting. and I'll talk a little bit more about it. But we also do state and local contracting, and we also work with the National Center has 14 programs that include the PTAC, and we, of course, since we're physically present here, we work with the the Native Edge Institutes and other National Center programs that are coming to the east. We just opened a DC Business Center a couple of weeks ago. So please, again, if you're a Native American business and you're interested in doing government contracting, please come and see me. Okay?
Thank you, Chris. We also have Kevin Nephew, and let me get to Kevin's. Kevin joined Seneca Gaming Corporation in 2014, most recently serving as Vice President of Organizational Improvement and Development. In that role, he successfully developed and launched a company-wide continuous improvement program focusing on process improvement and delivering improved customer service and profitability across the organization. To date, more than 1,000 Seneca Gaming Corporation employees have been trained on continuous improvement principles, which have provided savings and efficiencies to the corporation. He previously held the roles of Executive Director of Continuous Improvement and Director of Budget and Financial Analysis prior to joining Seneca Gaming Corporation. Kevin spent 22 years working in a series of finance positions with New York State, including 15 years as Director of Financial Administration for the New York State Office of Technology, as well as roles in the New York State Department of Tax and Finance and the New York State Division of Budget. As an enrolled member of the Seneca Nations Wolf Clan, Nephew becomes the first Seneca Nation member to lead the corporation in its 18-year history. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Actually, I'll keep my comments relatively short. One of the things I'd like to welcome you to Seneca Country and to the Seneca Gaming Corporation Niagara Falls property. As we go through, it's a real pleasure to be partnering and having you on property and on site. I think that's one of our goals, and we'll have numerous folks from Seneca Gaming Corporation involved today as we go through. I'll turn it over to Joanne Israel in just a few minutes. But really, just a welcome to everyone. I think as we've gone through, one of our goals is to look to empower we call it our Terra Ones, our Seneca members, but also it's an empowerment for our entire workforce. So when I see a lot of the goals of what you're bringing with the meeting today and the conference, I can't say enough about how excited we are to host you and have you on property. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you so much. Joanne Israel, she's the Assistant Manager of Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. She is at Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino in Niagara Falls, New York. She has held various positions with the company, including Corporate Director of Finance Operations and General Manager of Seneca Buffalo Creek Casino. She helps to oversee all departments of the Seneca Niagara Casino, including hotel, resort, spa and salon, table games, promotions, human resource, and environmental services, among other areas. You have a big role. Joanne grew up in the Tuscarora Indian Reservation and graduated from Niagara University in 2006 with a Bachelor in Business Administration and Accounting. Also earned her master's degree in Business Administration Strategic Management from Niagara University. Joanne's worked in public accounting for 5 years before starting her tenure with Seneca Gaming Corporation in 2011. Joanne serves as a board member for Native American Community Services and is a former board member for Intercommunity Services. She has also served as a basketball coach for St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Sanborn, New York. So, Joanne, welcome.
Yamascano. I'm the assistant general manager here, and as stated, it's a pretty big job. But I absolutely love working here, and I'm honored to welcome you all Throughout today's program, you will hear quite a bit about being in business and the entrepreneurial spirit that is throughout Indian country, and about the economic benefits that Native people and Native communities can realize through the success of Native-owned businesses. For inspiration, I encourage you to simply look around our world-class facility. 20 years ago, the Seneca Nation and Seneca Gaming Corporation were just preparing to start the historic transformation of the former Niagara Falls Convention Center into the original Seneca Niagara Casino. It was a risk, but the nation's leaders believed their bold decision would pay off for the Seneca people. Today, Seneca Gaming Corporation operates 3 world-class gaming facilities for the Seneca Nation: Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino, Seneca Allegheny Resort and Casino, and Seneca Buffalo Creek Casino. Together, our 3 properties represent more than $1 billion in investment, with nearly 3,000 employees here in Niagara Falls, in Salamanca, and in downtown Buffalo. Seneca Gaming Corporation, a Native business enterprise, is one of the largest private employers in all of Western New York. Who would have thought that was possible 20 years ago? The economic impacts of our operations are significant. As I mentioned, we have approximately 3,000 employees. Combined with the Seneca Nation's other businesses and the nation itself, more than 5,000 people are employed by the Seneca Nation, and does not include businesses operated by our individual Seneca owners. The paychecks our employees earn help to feed families, pay for homes, and send children to school in every community in every corner of our region. Beyond that, Seneca businesses spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year with local vendors and suppliers, who in turn are able to grow their businesses and create jobs because of their partnerships with Seneca Business. That, by any definition, is economic success, and it is rooted in the vision and commitment of the Seneca Nation. On behalf of Seneca Gaming Corporation, I wish you all tremendous success in your business venture so that you can realize your dreams and inspire the next generations of empowerment across Indian country. Thank you for visiting us, and have a wonderful time here at your conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. When do you have time to be a basketball, or was it basketball coach? You're so busy. And 3,000 employees, that's a lot to manage. Our conference this year was 3,400 people, and it was a lot of people, let me just say. So congratulations to all of you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with our Native American leadership panel. And I know Kevin had said that you might have to leave during, but we have a seat for you. If you'd like to come on up and make your way. We have Joshua Howard and Mike Williams also. So come on up here on the panel. You're in the hot seat, Mike. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see here, read a little bit about, we've met Kevin already, so we are going to learn a little bit more about Mike and Joshua. So Mike Williams, a Seneca Nation tribal counselor and longtime figure in the construction industry, is President and Chief Executive Officer, CEO for both Seneca Construction Management, SCMC, and 7 Gens. Mike was elected Seneca Nation tribal counselor from 2006 to 2010, and then again in 2012 to 2020. As a nation official, he serves on many committees and working groups, notably including work for the Seneca Nation on government relations on both state and federal levels. He was instrumental in spearheading the Seneca's delegation efforts to secure passage of the General Welfare Act, which was signed by President Obama in 2014. He began his career in the construction trades as an iron worker. He steadily assumed supervisory positions for the Holiday Inn Express in Seneca, Allegheny Casino Parking Garage, and several multi-million-dollar initiatives through the Seneca Nation Capital Improvements Authority, the CIA, including the Seneca Allegheny Hotel expansion, Seneca Buffalo Creek Casino, Allegheny and Cattaraugus Community Centers, and the waste treatment plant on the Allegheny territory, and I'm sure much more. And I hear at dinner that he's built many, many buildings in New York City, and he's just a world of information. So, Mr. Joshua Howard is a member of the Turtle Clan of the Seneca Nation of Indians. He has worked at Seneca Gaming Corporation since 2012, where he has held many job titles. Most recently, he is the Learning and Development Manager for Leadership Seneca. Josh specializes in talent development and coaching for individuals at all levels within the organization. He is best in assisting those who are going through career transitions, overcoming workplace obstacles, and team building activities. He is focused on helping leaders become more aware of their values, their impact on others, and their power to learn and grow. His coaching is focused on the leader's self awareness while also ensuring his clients stretch their professional goals within the organization. In addition to coaching and leadership development, Josh specializes in team building and individualized assessments to help people grow, ranging from newly hired to new manager to experienced professionals to ensure divisional management teams, utilizing his background in Six Sigma and continuous improvement. He has worked with operational teams to become more cohesive in order to operate faster and more effectively. Outside of work, he is a current treasurer and secretary of the board of directors at the Seneca Nation of Indians Economic Development Company, SNIEDC, as well as the vice president on the board of education at Pine Valley Central School. He's a lifetime member of his local Veterans of Foreign Affairs and served in the Operations Iraq Freedom. He holds his management master's degree in organizational leadership and his business administration bachelor's degree. And welcome to the panel. And so we're going to get started. And I'd like to I'm going to take the mic off here because I want everybody to be able to hear you and our video crew, of course, who's taping this. And I'm going to allow each one of you to provide any additional welcome that you have one there. Good. Is it turned on? Perfect. So let me go ahead and put this back over here.
Hello?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
So each one of you, you can pass the mic, and maybe you want to do an additional introductory, something that you want to share with us just to get started, and then we'll go through some different questions.
Sure. So, Yvette, thank you. You went through my background earlier. One of the things that I think is a primary focus has been part of my work with the Seneca Nation. So I started off my career with the Seneca Nation. I won't go back how many years, but I had left, and when I came back, I had left, for career changes. A lot of the focus became really looking at empowerment and opportunities for empowerment. And as you do, there was a couple things that I think I really took away from that career, that time of moving away. I think it's good to see change in careers. I think it's important to do that, and it's something that we focus on in a program that we've recently developed at Seneca Gaming Corporation called Leadership Seneca. Josh will get a little bit further into that, so I won't steal his thunder about Leadership Seneca. But one of the pieces, it really embodies two pieces, and they're really simplistic. One is to look at how do you make operations better, faster, and smarter? And while that might not be necessarily the focus of today's presentation, I think one of the things that you find when you try to make things better, faster, and smarter is the necessity for change. And the change process is very, very difficult. And I think it's something that we work with our clients, our team members, in how you manage change. I think it's an important piece for business owners. How do you manage change? How are you agile as you move? And I think that is a huge factor. I mean, we're seeing that in the world today as we see the economic climate's change, the headwinds of inflation that are coming here. And so I think, when that's probably one of the pieces that I really think our focus is on. The other piece that really, I think, is really leverages on change is that's what also is one of the key factors that leaders have to be able to manage. And I think that comes back to leadership. In Leadership Seneca, we really look at how do we develop that next generation of leaders. And I think that's a huge portion of this. We actually focus a lot on our overall Seneca members, but we also focus on our team members. But as we do, some of those qualities, of self-awareness, accountability, transparency, as we go through, that's really a path that we continue to look at. I know Josh, one of the things he does, and one of the cornerstones we have of the project is really as a coaching model, and that's really something we do. And I can't say enough about leadership, because as we go through, we've leveraged with local communities, the University of Buffalo, Medai College, but we also have worked with our private partners to look at leadership opportunities. And I think leadership, regardless of where you're at, whether it's in business or your personal life, but leadership is something that just you can never get enough of coaching it and of expressing it. I think that's probably been the most exciting piece of my career, is to actually be involved in the development of leaders and leadership qualities. And it's just very exciting, I think, because once you see that, I think you see that empowerment. I think folks, they take it, they run with it, and it's the most exciting part is to see that um, really it's limitless of what people can do with change and with leadership as they go forward. So I think it's a great conference. I think the focus on leadership is just tremendous, and I'll turn it over to Josh.
Noe Scano, Joshua Howard, Learning and Development Manager. 20 years ago, when these casinos started, my mother first worked at Allegheny when it got off the ground, but I was still in high school, and I honestly left for the military and thought I was never coming back to Western New York. Over the years while I was gone, the casinos got bigger and brighter and much more productive for the community. And when I got the opportunity to come back home, I took any opportunity I could to get my foot in the door here. In the past almost 10 years now, I believe I've had 7 different job titles, kind of trying to find my niche and become a better ambassador for the Seneca Nation here. When I started in the warehouse pretty much as a UPS delivery person for the casino, working our many different departments while I was going to school and getting my bachelor's at night. And since then, this casino, the Seneca Nation, I've had the opportunity to go beyond just my bachelor's and get my master's. And I recently finished my leadership coaching certificate through UB. And those skills and traits that I'm able to bring into leadership allow us to empower the next generation, as well as my generation and my mother's generation who's still here. We're trying to create leaders in every aspect of the organization, regardless of their role. They can be the best table games dealer, they can be the best cleaner here, but we want them to have the skills and areas of expertise to allow them to not just grow themselves, but those around them. So, as Kevin said, we do work with this Seneca employee specifically, where we're inclusive in that nature, or exclusive in that nature to other employees. We do want to be inclusive in what they're teaching and bringing to their departments and to everyone around. So that leadership and empowerment is definitely a huge driving force for us in any coaching or any training or any development that we work on with our employees. So that's kind of my backstory. So, Mike.
Hello, my name is Mike Williams, the Deer Clan, and there's us 3 right here. We had to venture out to find jobs, and if you look at our history, we were very poor, not as poor as other nations in the United States, but we weren't a very wealthy nation. So my father was an iron worker, so I had to travel to Dallas, to Oklahoma, ended up in New York City. And it really took our families, separate our families. This gaming corporation that we created, we voted on, and it didn't pass right away. A lot of our members didn't see what others saw, because they didn't have the opportunity to travel and see different parts of the world. So I think just us 3 men right here bring back ideas and thoughts and skills how to survive off territory. And that was one of the main goals. And I went to the school of hard knocks. I didn't go to college. I just worked with my back. And I'm glad to see my brothers and my sisters out here that went to college and learned a lot more to have a better, see farther than what I could see. But right now, I've been very fortunate health wise. So I'm able to work and travel and get around. But a lot of our members have the diabetes, have health issues that they could really help a lot more if we had a better bloodline, I guess, against diabetes. And that's one of the things I did want to mention is, even though I'm in the construction, had lost two brothers already, but it's something that's always on our mind. How do we build our programs for the next set of generations? The company that I'm working with, 7Gens, and that's the whole purpose, looking for vision for the next 7 generations. How do we provide for them? What are we going to leave them? We don't want to leave them in debt. And I think these gentlemen will definitely do every effort they can not to leave us in debt when we're gone. But getting back to what I've been fortunate enough, and the Seneca Nation had a little bit of confidence in me to move our corporation a little bit farther. And I would like to encourage other nations to follow our footprint and start taking responsibility and start taking the budgets that we do have to progress in our infrastructure, our finances. A lot of our brothers and sisters all over the country need electric, they need water for a better life. And I ain't saying we have all the answers, but we do have a little bit of experience of doing just that, trying to create a better life for our members. And I just hope that they can just take time out and really think about what is important. In my opinion, is how you're going to take care of our grandkids. And financially safe. They got to be safe. So I'm not really touching on the construction end of it. I just want to make sure that our people have more drive, I guess, and willing to get in that vehicle and go off territory and start learning, either through the military or through other projects. I mean, there's a lot of work out there. A lot of our younger people are into their own business right now. But there's one thing constant in life, and that's change. And that business that a lot of our youngsters are doing right now, it will stop. So you got to find a next niche that's coming down the street.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we're just going to, continue this conversation. So just real quick, who was or is your role model and or leadership mentor, and how do you define leadership?
So, my role model, I think my role model was my parents. I think about it every day. They've been gone for many years. But it was funny. My my parents had divorced, right? And it's not unusual. And but you know what was funny? My mother, my father left. He was not Seneca, but they lived on the reservation, so he had basically had to leave. But one thing she always kept in mind was she would say two things. He taught you how to work hard, and it's the values, right? I mean, to work hard, and you were never afraid to to take responsibility. And those two things she would always focus on. And with hers was just this even keel. Just keep moving forward and never stop pursuing what you have to do. You don't need to speak it. You don't need to talk about what you're doing, but never stop trying. Never stop trying to achieve what you can. No matter, I think that's probably the one thing I always learned. I think if somebody is to tell me no, that's the best thing to drive me to try to figure out a way to get to a yes answer. And I think that's something I try to challenge my colleagues with is like, there's got to be a way. Come on, don't just accept no as an answer. Get out there, challenge it. You don't always have to take the status quo, and look for opportunities. On top of that, don't be afraid to take risk, to look for opportunities. And the last thing, this I had learned actually from my grandmother. She had driven in this piece of never stop learning. No matter what you do, you never stop learning. And I like what Mike had said, because learning, people equate learning always to education, but learning is everything. And I think that's something I learned late in my career, and I probably have only learned it in the last 5 years of my career, and I wish I would have done it much earlier. And people told me to do it, and I didn't do it, which I probably could work on that a little bit, but it's to network. And networking, I never realized how much networking truly can benefit anybody, any organization, because what happens is it gives you a fresh perspective, and you can accelerate your learning process, because instead, I'll use Josh as an example, instead of just my experiences and me looking at it from my perspective, I can engage Josh into the conversation, and he brings all the experiences and all his work efforts through his time. And ultimately, at the end, we probably come up with a better solution. And when you think about that, that drives teams. And I think when we talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, I think networking is just enormous. And I think as you go through, I know I'm kind of getting out there a little bit, but I think when you talk about the role model, I think that was part of it, is don't hold back. Don't be afraid to speak up, and don't be afraid to take risks. And I think that's where that entrepreneurial spirit comes into play.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, education, training, networking, and being able to take risks. And that is so true for small businesses, because it is risky to put yourself out there and this is who I am, this is my product or my service. And it's always hard to market yourself. It's easier to market other people. Like I can market Aaron and Mike, but when it comes to me, I got to sell myself. It's like, oh, no. Like, I don't think I even introduced that I'm an enrolled member of the 3 affiliated tribes from North Dakota. Completely forgot. So anyway, yes, thank you.
So along the same lines of my almost naiveness to leadership, it was my parents, as Kevin stated, with him as well. My dad's still a laborer, fabricator, and welder for a company in the Southern Tier. And growing up, I never really realized how bad he broke his back so that myself and my brothers could get ahead in life. Until recently, a couple weekends ago, we were pouring concrete. He called me up and said, "Hey, can you come pour concrete?" It was one of those things like, yes, I'll do whatever he asks. Might not be my cup of tea, but it's something along those lines that, yes, if he asks, I'll do it. And we're halfway through this, and I'm like, Dad, man, I'm not made for this. Like, you worked your butt off so I could go to school and get ahead, like we talk about with those generations. And it's just that joke. But as a kid, I was so naive to what was going on. I mean, we grew up in our double wide trailer that my parents are still in, and that's what we were pouring concrete for, was for them to build their first house and go into that in retirement. So it was that naiveness that I had on how much my family, my parents wanted me and my brothers to get ahead in the opportunities that they allowed for us. And once I left home, I started in the military, and at 19 and 20 years old, I was overseas in Iraq, and my time there was spent as an intelligence analyst, collecting data on the region and things of that nature, very specialized. but the general in charge, I was just a private and a specialist while over there, but he taught me to go to the individuals that have the knowledge. Every morning he'd do a general brief, and if he had questions, he wouldn't call up my colonel or anything like that. He'd literally call me and my captain into his office to explain to him what was going on. And I saw it again once I started working for Kevin 3 years ago. It's that networking aspect and going to the people that have more information than you. You don't have to be the smartest one at the table. You have to know where to get the information. And I continue to see that in my career as I work with a lot of these individuals that are at their prestige level, and it's taking those skills that I've learned and trying to reflect it back in myself.
Wonderful. I like that. Go to the source.
Okay, I would have to say it's no individual. It's more my family, my uncles, my aunts, who um, put us into the drive of our work ethic. That there were on my father's side, everybody was a iron worker, so they made sure they grew another iron worker, and so just how dedicated they were to their families. One of my uncles had a farm, and it was a learning experience how to survive with what you have. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we're going through right now. Um, it's very hard to handle success in a way. You know, things were flying really well. Our ship was going, and then a couple of years later, this virus stopped almost the whole world, and that just goes to show how delicate life is. So I think it's more the community that, like with Kevin and his family, we all grew up playing little league baseball together, basketball. So to me, it was more like a community group to learn from not only my mistakes but their mistakes too, and they're harmless mistakes at the time, and but we learned from them. You know, so I would really like to hope that when we look at our ancestors, we really try to make them proud of where we are now instead of taking things for granted. I think that's where I would like to get off on this.
Great. The next question, thank you. I like that that you said, they grew another iron worker. And so it was sort of, they already had a plan for you in mind. So they were mapping out a plan and to learn from our mistakes. Sometimes we don't learn from our mistakes. Do you have a question? Okay, Kevin has to slip out. So thank you so much for joining us.
Seneca will be coming through. Mike had mentioned a little bit about the Seneca Nation. So what we're going to do is distribute a little bit of a sheet that provides you a little facts of the Seneca Nation. So we'll send that out to folks. I mean, we'll just distribute them after on break.
Absolutely.
And, no, I think Mike brings a very good point up here. And I think when you read the sheet, sometimes we get blinded to the fact of what we've accomplished. But I think it was, when Mike spoke, I think that it kind of drew me back to think if you look back 30 years ago, that wasn't even a speckle
A
of
time.
dust on the
Yeah.
sheet to just see the amazing amount of growth. But you see that in businesses. Sometimes when you have explosive growth, it's hard to manage that growth also because it's too much change all at once. So I think as we've gone through that, we try to realize, that we've gotten there, but it hasn't been without challenges. And as they say, physically, people go through growing pains, and I think organizations do, and people do. And I think sometimes it's important to realize there's a couple things, and we talked about it. Sometimes you just power through to get through it, and it might not be pretty, but we get through. And I think when Mike said that thinking about a really important word that you hear. I hope it's not overused because there's been a lot. And when Mike mentioned that with the Senecas, we've endured years of trauma historically, the residential schools. But throughout, and I think it's a part of leadership, is resiliency.
Absolutely.
You have to be resilient,
Hmm.
and you can't give up. And I think that's a great thing about community and friendships and networks is resiliency. So I hope.
Thank you so much, Kevin. So the next thing was I was going to say, what was your most satisfying leadership role and why?
For me here at the casino, over my 10-year span, I spent 6 of it within the human resources team as a training specialist, talent development. A large portion of that was management curriculum, but also new hires and onboarding. And when we talk about networking and things of that nature, for 5, almost 6 years, I met every single new individual that came through this organization, and that allowed me to grow, give them insights, but also build my network so that I could see them, I could reach out to them. I had that face for the um, positions that I've held since then. Just my vast network here through that role has allowed me to explore and gain data or reporting or anything that assists this organization just by having that face to go to. So that has been one of the large best things that came out of me as that training specialist.
Connecting with people as well, it sounds like. Hmm.
Well, I guess one of the things I'm most proud of is our training program. We have 2 trade schools on 2 of our territories where our younger adults can learn a skill that will help them with their own individual homes, or move them forward to a career. And the unions are really huge around this area. I know they're not all that huge on other parts of the Indian country, but around here, the unions are strong, and the we have a lot of our elderly men and our some of our women. They're all into, well, a lot of them are into the different unions, and that helps. It helps um, bring in a whole different point of view. Because the way I look at it is that the when you work for the Seneca Nation or other nations, you're kind of confined of what, how far you can go, because there's other people there. But when you're in a union, you can grow, you can travel, you can see a little bit more. So hopefully the goal is uh, with these trade schools to move these guys forward. When you mentioned about growing another ironworker, and that's the whole purpose. Um, Letting these young adults get them off the couch, get them into a trade school, and let you know if they in 15 weeks if they want to go back to the couch they can, but at least have an opportunity to experience something a little different.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask a couple of different questions in that you both have opportunities within your organization. What might there be as far as employment opportunities as well as procurement opportunities? Um, could you tell us a little bit about that?
So I can speak specifically to employment opportunities here at Seneca Resorts. My team, specifically Nikki Seneca, who's in the audience, She works outreach for us, so that's outreach beyond just job fairs or things of that nature. It's not such a recruiter role as much as an information role for our community. Whether it's working with local high schools, Turk, the program that Mike spoke about, trying to work those networks available for individuals to come here, in addition to internships or straight out of college opportunities. So the opportunities we have are vast. We have them. Our website, the best 8 hours, is set up for individuals to be able to find a job specific to what they want, or kind of find a job to get that foot in the door because they hear how great this organization truly is. So in terms of recruitment, we do a great job of the outreach, the job fairs, the local community and local college effort to try to entice individuals to come here. The hardest part, like Mike spoke about with our younger generation, is the distance. The distance from our Cattaraugus or Allegheny territories to come to Niagara Falls to work. And you'll see our lowest Seneca population is here at this property for that specific reason. They're more enticed to work at our Allegheny or Buffalo Creek environments, which kind of hurts us in a way because our corporate positions are here in Niagara. So we do want to be able to branch out and allow those individuals to have the opportunity, where we're starting with internships and allowing them to get their foot in the door to more of those specialized corporate fields. So there's a lot of opportunity for that. In terms of procurement, specifically, I'm sure Mike will talk about more so, is the tarot. So we work with the nation to ensure that the companies that come in, whether it's Seven Gens or something like that, that they do have the opportunity of a requirement for Native individuals to be part of their teams and to do the projects and to do the expansions that we have here. That's as far as I can speak on that.
Yeah. So we later today we will be having Gov Contract Pros. We'll be talking about teaming agreements as part of his presentation. So there are opportunities, it sounds like, to partner with Native organizations as well for those procurement opportunities. And then real quick, with the workforce development, you have to have a healthy workforce development in order to succeed in your business and your growth and expansion, retention. One, how do people go? Do they apply online? You mentioned you have career fairs and you're out in the community and things like that. A lot of things are done online now. And with COVID, we saw a decline in people coming back to work. So I'm sure you've all experienced where you go out to eat at the restaurant and you're noticing that it's taking a little bit longer to get your food because all the employment opportunities out there seem to they're struggling right now with getting people back to work, I guess. Do you want to add to that real quick? And then Mike, when you talk, it just wrote a little bit closer to your.
So yeah, yes. In terms of recruitment, we are just digital applications through our website. However, as I said with Nikki, she does have office hours on each of our territories. So she's actually in our nation buildings, located there once a week to assist anyone from the community that has questions, or wants to apply and look at job opportunities. So she can be with them every step of the way through the actual job interview, through the licensing and the drug testing, all the way up until the point where they're hired and we begin the onboarding phase. And then, like we spoke about, the onboarding is the largest obstacle we have. We lose too many individuals in the first 3 to 4 months. So we want to be that outreach to each of our Seneca or Native workforce members, is what our team focuses on, to ensure if they have any issues that they just don't up and quit or decide this isn't working out for me without actually having the resources there. So we act as that resource for them. For our more tenured employees, COVID's been difficult with budgets and things of that nature, so we want to do more with less. So how we incorporate that is trying to find projects, and what Kevin spoke about, continuous improvement. It's about better, faster, and smarter, and we still put those projects on to entice individuals, because we're not spending a lot of money on a program. We're bringing them in for a week to look at efficiencies, and we're using their expertise to discuss what's going on in their department, how they can make their department better, but gaining the insight from the ground level and individual, to allow them to feel like they're a valued employee, so that they do stay longer than just feeling like they're overworked and overwhelmed and understaffed. So we do want to entice them in that fashion too, while utilizing less, unfortunately.
And also, I know that, I can get a job at Burger King somewhere. I mean, they're Walmart or something. Or they're paying $15, $16, $17 an hour. Why should I go work at the casino? But I think a lot of that is the benefits. A lot of these organizations may not have the benefits, and you know, when a employer employee relationship is being built, I think that's something that is very something to consider, especially for the young worker, that we have these benefits.
Right. The benefits, you need that stickiness in the first 90 days. You need that point person, and that's where our team comes in. But the benefits as well, although they work an 8-hour shift here, we have a free cafeteria for our employees where they're paid to go to lunch. They get their hour-long lunch, and it's also free buffet-style food. So we do try to entice them in different ways. But we're there as that resource for them and kind of that sticky point. If they don't have someone in their department that they can relate to for 8 hours, they can reach out to us and we can try to be that ear for them just to allow them to have that conversation and that network while they are here till they build further trust maybe in their department or their role.
Right. And if they're working somewhere else and maybe they're making a little bit more in hourly, but then they have to buy their own meals.
Yep.
And then they go eat out, it's $20 at minimum probably for them to do that. So again, weighing the benefits, the health insurance and different things like that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that also. When we're building these properties, a lot of we become in contact with the gaming corp employees, and they like it here. The one person was telling me they pay me, they clothe me, and they feed me. I mean, how can you beat that? So there's a reason to be working for the gaming corp. Getting back to why should people apply for jobs with 7 Gens? If you look at this area in Western New York, um, it's not very. If you're a construction person and you really take pride in your work and you really want to do something that symbols your kids and your grandkids to be aware of. This property and the Allegheny property and everything the Seneca Nation does is we shoot for a 4 diamond rating. And if you look at the craftsmanship in these buildings and in the hotel rooms and everything that is accomplished here, we need skilled workers. And to reach the level that to provide craftsmanship that even in this room, it takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of practice, but when you walk away, you have it, and you can really be proud of what you accomplished. So I mean, it's kind of I think it's just us. I'm just saying it's something that Western New York really needs to invest a little more into their properties, and I believe they are. A lot of our people in Western New York were leaving. Now Buffalo is starting to come back. Niagara Falls is starting to come back, and it's because of the people that want to stay. And where can they find on a job where they can raise their families and this is what kind of like the spark plug we called it in Buffalo. That was really depressed area, and once that was accomplished, if you look at Buffalo now, it's unbelievable of what they're doing on the riverfront, and that's all from good neighbors being good neighbors, investing in their community.
So at 7 Gens, it's the letter, the number 7, and then capital GENS, and then so you have a training program, work opportunities, and subcontracting opportunities.
Absolutely, yes, we do.
And is it 7gens.com or
7gensllc.com?
7gensllc.com. So there's those opportunities out there. And I know for small businesses, they're always wanting to know where do we, so I sell these widgets, or I sell jewelry, or I sell a certain supply. Would they, for example, would they come into the casino And could they talk to somebody if they had a product or service that they're selling, or would they go online for any of those opportunities, those type of small business opportunities?
Like for vendors.
For vendors here, yes, we do have them. For native vendors, our Allegheny property specifically meets with vendors regularly. This weekend we have the powwow down in Salamanca at the Allegheny territory, and our retail team will be there meeting with vendors. The largest part that we have is due to the state is our license registration. To become a vendor for us, you have to provide a lot of tax information and things of that nature. What does unfortunately run off a lot of possible vendors. But yes, we are constantly at powwows, at different meetings, community events, looking for those local vendors to be able to sell whatever product they might have for us. And we do have a lot of local artists, even popcorn and things like that that come from the territory that are sold in our stores.
Perfect. And when you're looking at when you're vetting a vendor or a small business, and you're looking at the comparison with this company versus this company, and I'm sure, there's the paperwork involved. They have to submit their W-9, their LLC corporation paperwork, business license, and those processes. Do they have to obtain a business license here in the community in order to work with the community? Um, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I honestly do not know the answer to that question.
Okay. Do you? I see her. Which is real important. What Kevin said earlier this morning about networking, and I guess getting to know your community and your neighbors. And we have a question here in the audience, and let me take this over. Oh, you got a comment. So we can get it so it's correctly videoed on, we can hear it on our video stream.
Yes, they still require a business license. And my question was, when vendors do business with the casino, do you collect a taro fee for that? I mean, it's like anything over $50,000, you collect taro fee. Well, yes, I mean, like outside vendors, that has a contract over $50,000, they usually pay a taro fee. So
Are there any other questions that you want to ask the panelists while we're kind of out in the audience? No? Okay. So Mike, when you're looking at subcontractors to work with 7Gens and you're, going to rehab a building, what is it that you look in comparison when you're vetting? Is there like a process of, you have the list of native owned businesses, other minorities, and then other, And is that criteria? Is it based on bonding? Like, can you give us a little bit of insight? I don't want to give away all your trade secrets or anything like that, but kind of what is the process so that small businesses, to help them learn when they're filling out the application, competing for that RFP, because they're competing. It could be 3 roofing companies and you're doing a roofing project or something.
Yeah, exactly. Once we get a project from the nation or the gaming corp, what we'll do is we'll look at it and seeing exactly what it's going to take, and then we'll invite all subcontractors that are relevant in doing that type of work. And once that happens, we'll mail out invitations for a walkthrough, pre-bids. Then after, depending on the size of the project, it might be 3 weeks to accomplish a bid, or it might be a little over a month. And once the bids come in, everybody will come that wants to participate and that has the bonding, has the insurance requirements, and then we'll take the next step, and that's open the bids in front of everybody so everybody's aware, and then we would go from there. We'll analyze, is the bid way too low? They must have missed something if it's way low, and it's just going to get us in trouble and at the end of the project. So it's up to us to decide, are they capable of having the manpower and the expertise to accomplish the scale that they are required, well, they want us to provide for them. And so we have a pretty good relationship with the unions, and so we kind of know how much manpower there is out there for different projects. Like right now, this time of year, everybody's working in schools, upgrading all the schools that are around the neighborhood because they're closed. So it's kind of a tough time to find high quality contractors that already had jobs from the previous year. And that's one of the things that we got to look at also. How many bids do you have to accomplish a year in advance or 2 years in advance to maintain your manpower? So that's basically what we do is just keep relating to the different subcontractors and keep our ears open of what big projects are down the line that we can accomplish. You also look at this area in Western New York. The window of construction is 8 months maybe to be outside. So you got to plan your foundations. You got to plan concrete. You got to plan blacktop. There's a lot of things that go into it, and that's what we do is break down. And we even keep an eye on the Lake Erie, the temperature. Once it gets say it's October and it freezes, we're going to have a real huge snowstorm. So you just got to keep watching things that we're accustomed to, that we want to have the best interest for our nation.
Wonderful. And along those lines too, what are some of the things, because most of our audience is small business development, for forecasts? What are some plans that are maybe on the books that, one, I know Seneca Nation gives back to the local communities, and that's part of what the sheet is. So I hope you all look at that. And but what are some of the things coming up, if you can share with us, so that small businesses are like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for that. There might be a forecast coming for a new build of something, or an expansion of something, or a change. Is there something that the two of you can share with us in the next, year to 2 years?
Okay, well, you look at our properties, and not only the gaming, but the our nation. You look at something as simple as blacktop parking lots. That's every several years you got to seal it, you got to maintain it. That's ongoing. With here, it's always upgrades here. Or the hotel is probably occupancy is like 90%. I mean, there's always people here, so you always got to upgrade. Um, a small business, if you own a painting company that can do vinyl, you look at all the vinyl that is on the walls. Um, touch ups. I mean, it's for a small company, that's a good avenue to get into, and just uh, bounce around. We're on our three properties and just fix all the nicks and cuts and everything that just from people being here. And there's carpet always has to get changed. I mean, there's things that are constant that subcontractors and business people can look at, changing out furniture. I mean, there's what we do right now is our biggest seller is kitchen equipment because um, it's utilized so often, it wears out, and we got to upgrade all the time.
Yes, we were here 3 years ago, and you were doing a very large renovation in the main entrance area over here, and the steelwork and the whole look, and the rooms are fabulous. So there's opportunities for maybe handyman work, some heavy equipment, road work. What roads you said need to be upgraded every couple of years. Any plans for an additional casino coming maybe in the near future somewhere? Or
We're looking at a project right now. It's council's got it in their hands on the territory. Hopefully, that's we can utilize 100 acres, um, housing and business development. That's we've been looking at for a couple of years, and hopefully they're ready to do the investment.
wonderful. So it looks like there will be some more opportunities coming up in the next couple of years for more expansion and growth. Do you want to add to that?
So for the casinos, as Mike said, as you said, being here 3 years ago and seeing the hotel here, we're currently in the process and hopefully be done fairly soon with Allegheny doing their hotel rooms as well. For the casino, our RFPs in terms of a lot of those projects go directly to our website, this SenecaGamingCorporation.com, and I believe it's right under the About Us is where all of our RFPs are updated weekly. That if any small business wanted to just keep an eye out on that, any possible thing from once again vendors to customer service to um, technology and software. It's all posted there and it's updated weekly.
Okay. And in the community, and we're going to get into later on the SBA certifications, as well as Chris might touch base on that, as well as John Shiraka later, about the woman-owned, the service-disabled vet, the hub zone, and the 8A, which is the under the formal agreement under SBA. The 8A is the social economic disadvantage program. Basically, does the community follow any sort of? I know you have tarot, and I know we talked about vetting companies. Is there any other type of certifications that someone would hold, such as the MBE or something, that you look at as a formal process, or you just simply do your own when you open the bids and you look at that? It's not something that you necessarily, it's a very competitive bid process, it sounds like.
Yes, we don't normally utilize the WMBE or MBE vendors or subcontractors on the territory, but off territory, since we do hit some of the benchmarks of being native owned and native employees, we also subcontract from WMBEs and MBEs ourselves. Even though we don't hold a certificate, we do have the expertise and the manpower to hit their different goals that are out there.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to pivot a little bit here. And as a leader, what has been your biggest joys as a leader, and what are some of your biggest challenges?
For my joys, it's once again, it's that generation. It's providing individuals the expertise or just that entryway into a long lasting career or an opportunity elsewhere. If I can coach an individual, we look at our Seneca Nation employee numbers all the time, but if we can develop an individual to take another job at a nation entity or the nation itself, it should still be considered a win. So allowing those individuals those growth opportunities to expand their knowledge beyond the four walls that we have here at the casino goes a long ways in providing for those next generations. I think the biggest challenge we have is in terms of, um, to be honest, our coaching and development. Our We promote a lot of individuals, but then once they get to that next level, we want to be there as that backbone or that support system, and it's not always time relevant because they're kind of swimming for help or whatever it might be, and the coaching aspect might not be there. So it's just devoting the time that we need for development beyond once they get that promotion, but once they're into that role, so that they do have the foundation and the support for that individual's need, and not just get dragged down in the weeds of the day-to-day operations.
So your joy and your challenge.
Well, I think the biggest accomplishment that in leadership that I was a part of, and Nikki Seneca also, when we were sitting on council together, was the General Welfare Act. That was, I would have to say, not always take the legal route for other nations sitting out there, hopefully listening. We did it individually. Our counselors were not going to take no for an answer, and we went to Washington and we fought and we stood our ground, and we had our ancestors, I guess, thoughts and helped us through that. We don't pay taxes on anything that we create here. I mean, this is our business. Um, that money goes to our programs, and one of the biggest things that we were growing up was, you don't pay taxes, and we don't pay our taxes to New York State. I know the Gaming Corp, they have contracts, or they have to do what they have to do, but as far as the nation goes, our members, for the benefits that we provide for them, that is money that we can use ourselves instead of going to the state where we have no right to say where it goes. I mean, this is something that we have to do for our future generations, to stand our ground. I think that was the biggest accomplishment that we accomplished, and it was, if it probably wasn't for President Obama to sign it, it probably wouldn't have went through, if it was a different leadership up there. So the timing is everything, and the effort that our nation put into it to just keep our direction as far as just keeping our sovereignty and our I really don't want to get too wild in this conversation, because it really hits my heart. Or why do we have to do it in the first place? But I think that was the biggest accomplishment that I have participated in, is the General Welfare Act and I would sure hope that other nations could do the same. It's time we start governing our own destiny.
Wonderful. And then we're getting close, so I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll go into our break, I believe is next. But tell us, either from present or past, a success story that you were involved in, whether it was an employee that you had or whether it was in a business development format of working with a small business. How did you help them, or tell us about a little bit about that success story and the path that they took?
Well, there were several smaller businesses that on both territories that weren't able to hit the bonding requirements, but they were native owned, and they were able to not hold the bond, but they were able to. So what we did is we held cash. They just wrote us a check for the bonding. One thing that we have on the territory is people that want to work, but it's so difficult to go to a bank and get a loan. A lot of it is done with cash. You buy your heavy equipment with cash. Um, so there was really no recourse that other than if they were able to put up a cash bond. And in doing so, they were able to participate in not only from maybe a $75,000 contract, but now they can participate in a $1.3 million contract.
Wow. Okay. So they went from not being able to be bonded to putting a cash, you held a check for
Exactly,
in lieu
because we had to have requirements too for the gaming corp in Seneca Nation, and bonding is one of them. Insurance is one of them, and we don't want subcontractors to come in there and default because it just slows up everything. But that was one of the things, and now our these companies, they're flourishing. I mean, they needed that shot in the arm. They needed that expertise, I guess, to kind of follow our lead to run their business a little different, start working on different things, upgrading their insurance. It's that was a success, in my
Yeah.
opinion, that now they can handle bigger projects. Right now, one of our younger members, his company is running fiber on the territory. He's one of the subs, and they grew because the Seneca Nation allowed, the council allowed, since they are members, a cash bond instead of going to the bank, and because then it's another process.
Wonderful. So it sounds like you helped them, and then in doing so, it created their capabilities narrative, and they were able to build on that to start to have performance.
Exactly.
And so you worked with them very closely on that. It sounds
Right.
wonderful.
And it puts them out in the amongst the other contractors, and they're like, maybe I can use them as a sub too. So they grew being subs for other corporations on the
Great.
same project because we had their equipment already there. So
That's-
it worked out really well for them.
That's a great story. Thank you.
So in terms of leadership, mine is more employee based, especially here at the casino. And a number of years ago, I joined HR for my first endeavor in the corporate practice. But the relationships that I built within that, I, I can more or less became a light some days to individuals who were just unhappy and disgruntled with their job, or they felt like no one respected them because they may have lacked the technology skills. And there's one in particular where we'd come in early and we'd work on the technology skills because we went from a paper-based company into a technology-based company and try to build those skills up. And that coaching aspect of it, where it's an older gentleman who's kind of new, can do his job very well, but the technology is kind of throwing them off in their career. Building up the confidence and the skills, I still have that relationship where I go see him every opportunity I get just to ensure that he's still comfortable or at that level, or doesn't want to leave the organization, because when you've been here 15 years and a technology change is what's going to drive you out, I don't think that's fair to our employees or to our people. So it's that assistance. So even when I go in there, he'll make a joke, a simple one, IT joke, Control A, and he's just like, I still use that every single day. Just one of those tips and tricks that allows him to do his job better, and allows him to continue working here beyond just the technology, and giving them the opportunity to learn new things, even when they might beat their head against a wall most days because they just don't understand it. So it is being that influence for those relationships that I do have to allow them to continue to grow, to be better in their roles as their roles change with technology.
That's wonderful, and that's very important with technology and the advances, and things are always changing. I mean,
Yes, it is.
always evolving, always changing.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Any plans for an undercover boss type of scenario happening? Because I think employees sometimes we're going to give the employees a survey, and then like, oh, I know they're going to they have something in technology that they're going to know it's me answering this question. So I'm going to say, oh, it's all good. It's all great. So
I'd love to see Kevin do undercover boss now that he's not here.
that would be great. You'd probably learn a lot, hearing
Oh,
from the
yes.
employees, and they're real honest, like, hey, this is what's happening. And it could be just a simple thing like that, that
Yes.
they have the confidence to ask somebody maybe, or,
Correct.
and they're a great employee, but now they have that skill. And so now they're, where they need to be. So that's great. Well, thank you so much. Our time is up. I know you guys didn't think the hour would go by, but it did. And we're going to take a short break, I believe is what's next. And then we're going to get into our next session, which will be on the cannabis on native lands, best practices and key issues. So thank you so much.
We're going to get ready to get started again. So if we could take our seats. Okay. My name is Kaya Jackson. I am the Export Business Development Specialist for Arizona MBD Export Center, operated out of the National Center. I can explain more in our exporting session what I do, but for this session, I would like to introduce Erica Seneca, owner of Tall Chief Hemp. And in this session, we're going to be going through cannabis on native lands, best practices and key issues. So Erica here is an enrolled member of the Seneca Nation and is a 2014 graduate of the University of Buffalo with a bachelor's degree in communications. She is currently the director of marketing and special events and executive assistant to JC Seneca, owner of a WNY business empire that includes 8 diverse and successful commercial operations. She is also a board member of the JC Seneca Foundation nonprofit. Erica was recently awarded the prestigious Buffalo Business First 30 Under 30 award that is given to 30 people in the early stages of their career who are high achievers within their work and community. Erica's current job responsibilities include the planning and management of all events at Tall Chief Territory, home of the Native Pride Travel Plaza in Irving, New York. The longest running of those responsibilities is the early Rock and Blues Bike Night Summer Series, which attracts music lovers and motorcyclist enthusiasts from across western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. She also produces all enthusiasts from across western New York and she also produces all company special events such as the annual Tall Chief Outdoor Music Celebration, as well as native presentations including smoke dance competitions. All special events take place at the Tall Chief Outdoor Event Center. A facility she helped to create in 2020. Erica's professional skills extend to the office side of the Tall Chief Native Pride operations, where she designs, creates branded merchandise, graphics, and advertisements, websites, social media posts, and radio and TV commercials for all the company's operations. She also keeps a steady eye on operations in the Tall Chief Diner, the Six Nations Manufacturing Factory, and the Native Pride convenience store and fuel and pump operations, all while facilitating and mandating the concerns, ideas, and problems of the 100+ people under the companies. And so, Erica, if you would like to start.
Good morning. Yahweh, thank you for having me. So, as I said, I'm Erica Seneca Hasty, the Director of Marketing and Special Events for Tall Chief Territory, home of Native Pride. And Tall Chief Hemp is one of the subsidiary businesses that is underneath the encompassing one. Tall Chief Hemp was established in 2018 after the Farm Bill was passed. So we have been around for 4 years now. When we first began, we were really excited because it was kind of the first thing that we could do within cannabis, and it was all legal. You know, everything was allowed. So right away, we started to do some research into different farms, different manufacturers, different products, and just started to test everything we could get our hands on. So Native Pride Travel Plaza is the store that we started to bring the products in. That is our main hub for Tall Chief Territory. We were ordering products from brand name CBD places, and then we soon found that they weren't very good. The products were not good at all. They weren't even the amount of CBD that they were claiming were in these products. So it made our brains kind of start turning. So we started to kind of formulate our own. That became CBD tinctures. We had some chocolates and some different items, a peanut brittle. We had just tried everything. And then we finally found somebody who we could trust and who we could stand behind and put our Tall Chief Hemp name behind. So that's when we started with the tinctures all over again. Brand new line of tinctures. Mint, pure, and berry are our top 3 sellers, but we have 15 other flavors. We have a line that we have a trusted manufacturer out of the Carolinas, and then we have another brand that we have that is manufactured right here in New York State, actually right in Buffalo. So we have that trusted partner as well, and all of their products are made from organic New York State grown hemp. So that includes bath bombs, tinctures, gummies, and Delta 8 gummies. So as the years went on, Delta 8 then became legal for us to be able to sell. So we found out that the gummies were the best way and our best-selling product for this form of cannabis. We've tried hemp smokes, all of that. Gummies was still the number one. So we put everything into the gummies. Started pushing those. Then we started going to shows. We actually attend a Reservation Economic Summit, which happens in Las Vegas. This would be our 4th year that we presented there and had our expo booth there, where we launched our vending machine. So that is our newest thing that we've launched this year, is our vending machine. We are able to dispense our CBD products through the vending machine, which is actually a refurbished red box machine. So while we are continuing to evolve in our brand, we are also being mindful of the planet Earth in general and trying to keep our stuff sustainable. So right now we're actually in the process of looking at different packaging, stuff that's made out of recycled products, stuff that is biodegradable, because one of the big issues in cannabis is the packaging. Everything just gets thrown in the garbage. You have to redo everything. Nothing's really reusable. So those are some of the things that we've been kind of playing with right now when it comes to the cannabis products. So when we first launched Tall Chief Hemp, we were just within our stores. And then as we got bigger and started growing, we were able to distribute our products into other stores. We are in a handful of stores that are in the Western New York area, and we're always looking to expand. After we were at the Reservation Economic Summit, we've made some really good contacts, and we are going to be having our products distributed on a more national basis throughout Indian country. So we're really excited for that and to see, kind of the evolution of that part of it. One thing that we always wanted to put a big something that we're really hammer down to people is having a certificate of analysis, because of the issue that I mentioned before, where we didn't know what was in the CBD products that we were even selling in our own store. So we have a certificate of analysis that backs up every single one of our products, proving and showing that it is tested by a third-party laboratory. This is important because these things people are ingesting into their bodies, they're putting on their skin, and we want to make sure that it's safe for everybody to use. We wouldn't use these products if they weren't safe, because we use them all at home. I gave everybody a sample of our muscle rub stick. It looks like a chapstick. Don't put it on your lips. That is our #1 bestseller. This product was formulated within the last 2 years, and it has a combination of CBD, the cannabis plant, full spectrum, and a little bit of kratom in there, which helps with muscle cramping. So with these two natural plants working together, you get the properties of all the CBD, the anti-inflammatory properties that it holds, working together to help alleviate some of the feelings, the discomfort that you may feel in your back, your neck, hands, anywhere really that you can rub it topically. So we have our COAs back up all of these products. You can scan the QR code. You can look it up on our website, and you will be able to be taken right to the certificate of analysis, and you'll see right what's in there. You'll see when the product was made. So full disclosure to everybody who uses our products, because we want our customers to trust us. And we want to make sure that they know we're giving them the best product that we possibly can. What comes along with that is education. So when you're talking to people about CBD, there's a big stigma behind it as it just kind of being like fake marijuana, but that's not the truth. It's its own plant, and it has its own healing properties and its own benefits that it provides. So when we are promoting our products and we are telling people about what we do, education is always the #1 thing that we have to explain to people right from the beginning, the plant, the benefits, and why they should be using it, and why it isn't just fake weed, and it's actually really good stuff. Another best practice that we like to keep is staying updated and involved within our communities. So it's important for us to put ourselves out there, because if you don't put yourself out there, then nobody's ever going to know who you are. So what we do is we attend events, and we sponsor events, and we talk to people in the community, because that's the best way. Word of mouth is always the best way, especially when in the cannabis industry, it's very hard to advertise. Advertising in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of restrictions, and there's a lot of things that you can't say and you can't talk about. So the best way for you to be able to promote yourself and promote your products is being out in the community. We do things like golf tournaments where we hand out samples to people. We hand out samples at our bike nights that we put on Thursdays. We also attend the events, the expos, just like Reservation Economic Summit. And these types of things just are always good to do. It keeps you right on top of people's minds, and then they go back and check out your website, and it usually comes full circle. Some things that are some key issues within cannabis on native territory can be banking. Banking right now is a very difficult thing to come by when it comes to cannabis because it isn't nationally legal. So a lot of banks that are backed nationally, they can't do anything for you when it comes to cannabis. We had even issues through Native Pride Travel Plaza where we had CBD listed on our website, and we had our Tall Chief Diner POS system, Toast, that didn't want to process our credit cards anymore for us because we have CBD and because we sell CBD in the store. We know that it's not marijuana or, you know, anything that's going to hurt anybody, but because of the stigma behind it and the federal restrictions, we were almost, you know, our diner was almost cut off from credit card processing because of it. So it's always good to be mindful of things like that when it comes to cannabis and CBD, because that could be the biggest make or break. So we had to remove CBD from our website, and we were able to continue with Toast for the meantime. And they said they were working on trying to make changes, but you know that starts at the federal level. Not much that we can do about it here, unless you lobby and talk to your people, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get the message across. See, if you open up the brochure that I gave you, I can talk to you a little bit about some of our products. Sure. It's a cannabinoid. So CBD is just an easy way for people to say it because the cannabinoid is like, you know, like a really big word. So. And then Delta 8, you can see, is on the other side of the brochure. Delta 8 is just an extracted molecule out of the cannabis plant, out of the hemp plant. So there's two different plants. So it comes out of the hemp plant. So that's why it's legal for us to be able to manufacture and sell it. One of the products that we've been really proud of as well is our B12 and Cbd Gummy. So the B12 gives you a little bit of an energy boost. The CBD just gives you that nice, soothing, kind of calming effect, and they work really well together, especially when you're at work. You need a little bit of a boost and you don't want to drink a whole coffee or something. The gummies are really, really good for that. The other product that is really, really good for a nice winter day is the bath bombs. The bath bombs are our third top seller. They are very popular because they smell really good. They make your skin feel really nice and smooth. And they help you relax. Just pop it in your bath and take your mind off things. So the last thing I want to mention is branding. Cannabis products, it's all about the brand. It's all about the way it looks. So you really want to make sure you have a really good logo. The logo is what stands out. It's what people going to remember besides just your name. So one thing that we've put behind all of our branding for this product is our native culture. We really respect and appreciate where we come from. And we found after some research that hemp was actually a popular plant within our people, the Haudenosaunee people. And after that, we were kind of just right then convinced, oh, well, perfect, that's fine. Our ancestors are cool with it. We're cool with it. Let's go. So when we began developing the brand Tall Chief Hemp, we were trying to think of something that kind of goes along with it. That's a saying besides just having, really good premium effective CBD. That sounds good. But we came up with Mother Earth's medicine. So that's what we call it. That's what we refer to it as, because that's exactly what it is. It's a plant. It comes from Mother Earth. It comes from the ground. It's natural. Your body has receptors for the cannabinoids already. So it's just something that makes sense. And it helps people in their everyday life. It helps me in my everyday life. And we hope that we can help spread some of our wellness to advance a healthy living in your mind, body, and spirit as well. That's all I have to say. Okay.
Does anyone have questions? Yes. Hold on.
Was actually self-funded by JC. JC Seneca is the owner of the business. We actually didn't get any sort of funding or anything from any banks. Everything was just, here's some money. This is what you have to get started, and let's do it. Because of the difficulty of banks, so there really wasn't many other options except for that.
Yvette? Oh, repeat it. Okay. Okay. So how would small businesses work with you guys?
So what we do with some of our local small businesses is we set up a small display. Say somebody has a storefront. We set up a small display within their store, and we wholesale the products to them, and then they, put their markup or whatever suggested price that we tell them, and then they sell them through their stores. And then, we just tell people you can get them here, you can get them there. So we get questions through our contact page on where they can buy their products locally, and we'll send them to their stores. And as always, we send them online because that's the easiest way for us to get our products to people. But when we're trying to work with other small businesses, that is what we do. And with our launching of our vending machine, it's going to be easier for us to do this nationally because we can have a vending machine set up at somewhere in California, and there's just like a little Bluetooth signal that lets us know when they need product to be able to fill their machine again. So it's a pretty cool system, and I think it's going to be able to help a lot of different sort of businesses across Indian country as we really develop the program.
And what type of small businesses do you normally work with?
I guess it kind of depends. Like with our products themselves, we've worked with some farms, local farms. One of them is a woman-owned and operated farm, which is really cool in New York. We work with some small business when it comes to printing our items. We really try to keep it local for as many things that we can. And the manufacturers of our products, they're all small businesses. They're not big, huge corporations. They're all small business people. But yeah, that's pretty much. And then the ones that we work with to put our products in their stores.
Any other questions? Yes.
So as we began selling the CBD products, we did a lot of research on our own time, just figuring out, what it is, every little tidbit of information that we could get our hands on. That's what we have. We also have infographic material in the stores so that people can go and look at it themselves. They can see, what CBD is, CBG, CBN, all of the different forms, and then kind of pinpoint what their uses are. And then we just ask people, what their level of knowledge is. Are they starting from no knowledge or, the little bit? And so we kind of just go from there and we ask what they know, and then we tell them what we know just to help clear up maybe some of their misinformation and give them some new information that they may have not already known. And it really starts from the basics of what CBD is, what plant it comes from, and how it helps you, the benefits of it.
And how can people find you?
So we can be found within our location, Native Pride Travel Plaza. And besides that, we're online, tallchiefhemp.com. We can distribute our products to almost any state within the U.S. There's only a couple that have absolutely no CBD that you can sell at. And so we are mindful of that. We will not sell our products to any states that don't allow it. We also have a age restriction as well. So you have to be 21 in order to buy the products, because we want to make sure that we're responsible across the board for stuff like that. So
Can you tell us a little bit what's happening at the Tall Chief Hemp location?
sure. So where Tall Chief Hemp is located is actually on Tall Chief territory. We're right off of Route 20 in Irving, New York. And besides Tall Chief Hemp, we also have Tall Chief Cigars. Tall Chief Cigars just relaunched their humidor and smoking lounge, which also is an e-commerce site now as well. So within our scope, we have now 2 e-commerce sites, Tall Chief Hemp and Tall Chief Cigars. We also have Six Nation Manufacturing. We have our Native Pride Fuel, where we haul all our own fuel to our pumps. And we have the JC Seneca Foundation 501c3 organization. Oh, and the Tall Chief Diner, which we just opened our brand new kitchen that we've been working on for 2 years. So it's really nice and really pretty, and we're very, very proud and excited to have that finally done. So
What are the hours of operation?
Native Pride Travel Plaza is 24 hours. They never close, even on holidays. We're always open for fuel and convenience store. The diner is open limited hours, 6 in the morning till 11.
When we visited the location, we saw showers. Is that for truckers?
Yes, the truckers are our number one customers. They are always there. We have truck parking in the back, showers, laundry services for them, and a CAT scale, which is the only one within the vicinity. The next one is in Pennsylvania. The next one closer to that is just outside of Buffalo. So all of the services that we have at Native Pride Travel Plaza pretty much bases all around the truckers and the trucking community. Because without them, we don't really have much. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. When we visited with JC, he came from really humble beginnings. Can you provide like a short bio?
So JC Seneca, he got the business started out of a camper trailer on the side of the road. He was selling cigarettes, and from then just started growing and adding more things to his business. He then got gas pumps. From then on, started growing, put in a diner, and then the diner became very popular. And from then on, just kept growing and growing and growing to what it is today. Then we have a secondary gas station location as well called Native Pride 2, which is on the Route 5 area of the reservation. But from the beginning on, JC's always had a great vision as to what he wanted to do with Tall Chief territory. It was always Native Pride until a couple years ago when we changed the name over to Tall Chief territory, and that was based on a family name and family history, where the land is. The original family member's name was Tall Chief, and so as he was kind of going through Native Pride and some of the woodsy areas, it kind of just came to him to put more of a staple of the name Tall Chief. So from that point on, everything has been Tall Chief, and we've been, just been rolling with it, and it's been a really, really fun adventure.
Wow, you guys are doing some amazing things there. But thank you for sharing with us, and we will move on to our our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Our next speaker we have is Ryan Smith, Associate Business Development Analyst. Ryan Smith joined the Division of Minority and Women Business Development and Empire State Development in November 2018. Based in Syracuse, New York, office for Empire State Development, Brian brings a wealth of unique experiences to the division. His career spans from financial services to energy, commodity, trading, and consulting and business development. Ryan holds a master's of business administration from the University of Albany. It should be in there. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Oh, that is.
And I brought a copy so I don't have to look behind me. But thanks for having me. As was mentioned, I'm Ryan Smith with the New York State's MWBE division. Today, I'm just going to do a real high-level overview of our the New York State MWBE certification. And again, I'm just going to do a brief background. We'll talk about the benefits of getting certified as a New York State MWBE. We'll also review our new decentralized certification process. I'll briefly talk about the types of applications. We'll kind of talk about a little bit more about the certification review process, and then we'll also cover some common mistakes that we see with applications. And then, we always like to mention additional resources. So, jumping right in, get the clicker. So, our division was created back in, I believe it was 1988, from Governor Mario Cuomo. And essentially our mission is to promote the equality of minority and women-owned businesses, and really ultimately to break down the barriers for their participation on state contracts. Our main objectives are really to encourage and assist state agencies to increase the participation of minority and women-owned businesses, and really just make sure that they're getting a fair share of those contracting opportunities. Our division reviews the certification applications as well as manages the directory of minority and women-owned businesses. And we also promote the business growth and development of minority and women-owned businesses through education, outreach, really helping them connect with New York State contracting opportunities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, moving forward. But really, a lot of folks question, why we have the certification. We first and foremost, it's to maintain the program's integrity. We want to make sure that legitimate minority and women-owned businesses are getting certified so that they can participate on New York State contracts. We want to recognize that, that sort of give that stamp of recognition to minority and women-owned businesses. And also, we want to detect fraud or abuse in the program itself. So that certification will help us do that. And again, we also promote the wide use of minority and women-owned businesses with New York State agencies and authorities, and we also provide guidance to those agencies and authorities to help them manage their own MWBE efforts. So, just a few of the benefits of getting certified. Oftentimes I'll get asked, oh, well, I'm a minority, I own my own business. Why, what's the benefits, or why should I bother getting certified? First and foremost, you would be, as a minority and woman-owned business, you'd be featured in the directory of New York State certified MWBEs. Currently, we have over 9,600 MWBEs certified in New York State, and that list is growing. You also have, as a certified MWBE, you also have specific tailored lending programs, such as our bonding and surety, our Bridge to Success program and our surety bond program. And as a certified firm, you will actually have access to tailored procurement opportunities that are really, really geared and specifically tailored for minority and women-owned businesses. And then earlier we heard about networking and the importance of that. as a certified firm, you really be part of that network of certified firms and a lot of statewide support and services for your business. On a state level, the New York State agencies, as I mentioned, our division provides guidance to those New York State agencies to help them really implement and to, and basically execute their MWBE efforts. We also inform on policy and guidelines for, not only the state agencies, but other stakeholders. And ultimately, really the driving force is, a really contribution to the New York economy. Small businesses obviously are a huge part of not only the New York State's economy, but the national economy. And really promoting minority and women-owned businesses is a key part of that success. And as I mentioned, beyond the state level, on a national level, we're working with other states to work on best practices to make sure that we're really moving our program forward, as well as assisting other states with their programs. So, just a little background, prior to really about a year ago, our certification process was really handled by a single analyst, or I should say the application review process was really handled by a single analyst. So that analyst would really take it from the intake process all the way through to the decision process, and really, rarely could move on before they completed that review process. So it wasn't very efficient. So recently we developed a more decentralized process to, really to try to gain efficiencies and try to, hasten the review process. First and foremost, as a new applicant, we definitely encourage taking our new self-assessment tool, which is on our website, and that'll be provided on the last slide. And really, the reason for that is we want to make sure that the applications that we're receiving are complete, and that the applicant is actually eligible. We've unfortunately had a lot of applications in the system, of folks that weren't eligible or the applications were incomplete. So this self-assessment process will help eliminate any of those situations. So the first step in the process is the intake phase, and then the desk audit phase, and then it goes on to the compliance phase, and then a decision phase. As I mentioned, now we have certain teams that handle the process as opposed to that one analyst, and we are starting to see some efficiencies in the review process. So to dig a little bit deeper, the application intake team, really just ensuring that the applications are complete, that the documentation that we need is complete or included with the application. And we'll talk about this in a second, but if an application is missing more than 3 documents, that application will actually get kicked out. So it doesn't stay in the system and kind of create the backlog. The applicant does have time to resubmit, but the intake phase is a really important process, part of the process, because again, it's going to eliminate a lot of those incomplete or ineligible applications. Once an application passes the intake phase, it goes on to the desk audit phase, and this is really where most of the review is taking place. That's where they're going to review a lot of their documents, and I'll talk about some of those areas that the certification unit's really focused on in a slide or two. Once the reviews, the bulk of the review, it takes place, it then goes to the compliance team, and that's really where they're looking to figure out what industry codes that certification, that applicant or that business will be assigned. Because with the certification, the business is assigned certain industry codes or product or service codes to really essentially to basically describe and detail which products or what services you're certified to perform. And then once that's complete, then it goes to the final decision phase. So when we're thinking about the different certification types, we obviously have the MBE, the Minority Business Enterprise, or the Women Business Enterprise application. Or if it's a minority and a woman, or if multiple minority and women, then that would be the M and W BE application. And then there's also the what we have is a one-stop addendum. This is if with a new application, an applicant can select the one-stop addendum. This allows them to essentially submit the application information to 3 of our partners. So if an applicant's interested in getting certified with New York, New Jersey Port Authority, as well as the New York City Small Business Services, and then more local with here Erie County and Buffalo Joint Certification Commission, you can select the one-stop addendum, and then once your application with New York State's complete, we'll share your information with one of those entities. It'll just make your application with them go a little bit easier. And we also have a fast track application. So if you're already certified with one of those entities, such as Erie County and the City of Buffalo, you can select a fast track application. Now, I always like to clarify there's nothing real fast about our review process, but what it does reduce the amount of time that you'll have to spend on the documentation and all the information that you have to submit to New York State, because those entities, those fast track partners, are sharing that with our division. So it'll reduce the amount of documentation and the amount of information that you have to spend time in submitting with New York State. So that's helpful for a lot of folks that are already certified with one of our fast track partners. But also, if you're already certified with the federal 8A program through the Small Business Administration, as well as if you're already certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise with one of the transportation agencies, those are fast track partners, and you can submit a fast track application if you are already certified with one of those entities. So again, it does reduce some of the documentation. Just lost my place here. But so we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the application review. So really we think about it in 3 different kind of buckets. The ABCs of certification. The applicant's going to be reviewed, the business is going to be reviewed, and aspects of the control of the business is going to be reviewed. So our certification, you have to be 51% owned, minority and or woman, as well as a U.S. citizen or or permanent resident alien, as I mentioned, or again, and you have to be in business for at least 1 year. So that's sometimes that's a key for some of the newer businesses. From a business perspective, you have to be authorized first and foremost. You have to be authorized by New York to do business in the state of New York. You cannot be publicly traded. You have to demonstrate that you actually are actively in business and that you have business in New York State, that you're contributing to the New York State economy, and you have to have less than 300 employees. Another aspect of the certification is control. You have to have control of the business. I usually say it's easy to own a piece of paper, a stock of a business, but our certification goes beyond that ownership. We actually want to see that you actually control the business. So some of the things that we look at for that is capital contribution. We want to see that you share risks and profit in the business. We also want to see that you're ultimately making the business decisions, the day-to-day business decisions. And you have to be independent of all other businesses. And then, all these are really viewed from the aspect of, those key revenue generating aspects of a particular business. So we're going to talk a little bit more about each of those. As I mentioned, you see there the ownership, the personal. We also have a personal net worth requirement, which is under $15 million. I know I certainly fall under that, but if that's an issue, congratulations to you. But some of the documents that we look at to demonstrate some of these things, we're going to look at a certification affidavit. We're going to look at a personal net worth statement. We provide a simple template if you need one, but essentially it's essentially think of it as assets and liabilities. And then a proof of U.S. citizenship or permanent residency, I should say. And then also proof of minority and or gender. And then we also, we do collect both your individual and business taxes, your most recent year of your taxes. And then on the business, looking at the business side of things, some of the documents that we're going to look at are going to be your business taxes, as I just said, your W-2s, your 941s, your New York State 145s, your W-3s, any stock ledgers, or a narrative about your business. If you're a sole proprietor, for example, you might want to provide a narrative about how you operate your business, or a little bit about your business. Again, you're also going to have to show that you have the authorization from New York State to do business. And then also you want to look at your certificate of independence, bylaws, any kind of meetings, operating agreements. We're going to look at your certificate of assumed name and any kind of county filings that you might have submitted for your LLCs. And also you're going to have to just basically demonstrate that you do have a business presence in New York State. And then, and again, activity. We also are going to collect documents to show that you are actively in business. That may be invoices, contracts, proof of payment for your services, things like that. And then from a control perspective, as I said, it's fairly easy to own a business, but we really want to make sure that as an owner, you are actually controlling and independently operating your business. Some of those things we're going to look at: your capital contribution. And when we think about capital contribution, we get a lot of questions about that. Some folks, may have started the business a dozen years ago and they really can't point to a business loan or anything. We look at capital contribution from cash, equipment, property, even expertise. We just need to show that you have skin in the game, that you contributed a value to the business, and you weren't just handed the business or given the business. So again, we're going to look at, it's more than just cash contribution. We'll look at expertise, we'll look at property, equipment, things like that to make sure you have contributed to the business. We're also going to look at resumes of the owners. We want to see what kind of expertise you have to operate that business. We'll also look at copies of licenses, permits, certifications, if they apply for your particular industry, any accreditations and things like that. And then also bank signature cards. This will show that you are authorized on not only the bank account, but also authorized to manage those finances. And then also current leases and deeds, as well as any third-party agreements, insurance contracts, operating agreements, as I mentioned. Ultimately, it comes down to, do you have the authority to make those day-to-day business decisions independently from anyone else? So that's an important aspect, as I mentioned, about the certification. And as I mentioned, I think I mentioned already, the intake phase is really important because this is where we're going to kind of filter out those incomplete applications. So if you're missing less than 3 documents, then you'll move on. And then typically the review process will have a Q&A session with the certification unit to kind of fill any of those gaps. Maybe if you're missing any additional documents, if they need additional year of taxes or things like that. And then when we won't receive it is when you're missing more than 3 documents, or there might be inconsistent ownership information. For example, if you say you own 60% of the business, but you only have 10% voting rights or something like that, we may reject that, or that might come up in the Q&A as well as the small business requirement. If you have over 300 employees, that'll be rejected, as well as the personal net worth. Those are pretty straightforward. You have to be under demonstrate, or if you're missing the personal net worth statement, you have to demonstrate, and you have to submit that just to, and again, you just have to be under $15 million on that personal net worth statement. You can have a negative net worth. We're not judging. All we have to do is verify that you're under 15 million. So that's okay. And then some areas where people kind of fall short. I just mentioned a couple, but they forget to sign the application, or get the notarized, the documents that need a notarization, or they even forget to even submit the attachments. As I mentioned, the personal net worth statement, sometimes people just think, oh, well, that doesn't relate to me, I'm well under their benchmark, but we do need to see that. It needs to be notarized, filled out, and then if the attachments are required, then obviously, as I mentioned, we want to make sure you include all the attachments. Tax documents. This is where a lot of folks fall short. As we know, those complete tax return can be very lengthy. We need to see every single page. It seems crazy, but we can't just go by a summary. Every schedule in your tax return, every single page of that tax return does need to be submitted. And then industry codes. When we're assigning those codes, we're looking for those contracts, but also the proof of payment. It's not just good enough to say, hey, I'm a roofer and I install roofs. If you can't document and submit contracts, invoices, and proof of payment for those services, we cannot give you those associated codes. And as I mentioned, a big part of that is that proof of payment, because obviously, invoice doesn't prove that you were paid for those services. And then proof of capitalization, I kind of talked about that already, but it does have to be proportionate to your business interest or your ownership interest, I should say. And then, again, the documentation's key to this. Even a narrative or, as I mentioned, property, some kind of statement or narrative on value for that contribution is what they're looking for. And then this, we always like to mention, similar to our host organization today, there is a lot of good resources out there, that we work with New York State. We have our entrepreneurship assistance centers throughout the state. We also have procurement technical assistance centers throughout the state, as well as the small business development centers. There's several SBDCs here in the area. And again, all these organizations are throughout the state. I'm a big fan of every single one of these organizations. Even if you're not getting certified as an MWB, if you own your own business as a small business owner, they all have great resources. And again, we heard about networking and learning and things like that. These organizations can really help expand your network, introduce you to new opportunities, workshops that will help you learn different things to grow your business. So we highly recommend you take advantage of all those resources out there. It's nice, it's nice to see there are a lot of resources for small businesses. And then we also want to just mention that our division has a division of small business and technology development. They run a lot of our access to capital programs. They have a Mentor New York program. So, as a small business, whether you're New York State MWB certified or not, that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, we've actually had businesses that have graduated, so to speak, from our program. They've grown in revenues, they've grown in employee size and things like that. What's nice is, I mean, government contracting is not easy. I mean, most of our efforts are towards state contracting opportunities, but even on a federal level, it's very competitive. But as a firm that's graduated to that point, you're probably in a better position to compete and to get those contracts directly with New York State agencies as a prime contractor, because a lot of our quite frankly, a lot of our firms are really on the smaller side. So a lot of times they're subcontractors of those sort of larger firms that get the contracts with the state, and then they'll be subcontractors with those larger firms. So, as a firm that graduates, we always say, well, congratulations, you're doing well. They're more likely in a position to get those prime contracts directly with the New York State agencies. So in doing so, again, hopefully part of that process was being a subcontractor and growing through our program. And and again, once you're beyond that, then you may be more well versed in getting those New York State contracts or those government contracts. I hope I answered that. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I did bring a couple flyers here, and I can send those over. I don't think I sent those over yet. But one of the New York State's official site for government opportunities is called the New York State Contract Reporter. State finance law actually mandates that they advertise those opportunities, anything that's over $50,000. So those opportunities, just about every opportunity, will be advertised in the New York State Contract Reporter. What's nice is a lot of the not only state agencies use this, but municipalities also use this. School districts use this. Even prime contractors can advertise subcontracting opportunities. So, as a prime, if you have a direct contract with a state agency or a state funded project, then you can actually advertise those subcontracting opportunities. If it's a state funded project, it most likely will have MWBE goals assigned to that project. So, as a prime, you'll want to sort of do some outreach and advertise those subcontracting opportunities towards those MWBEs, and the New York State Contract Reporter would be probably the first way to do that. I do. I brought a bunch with us, but that's just a sample of it there. Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. So if the question was if so a non-certified firm joint venturing with a certified firm, is that a good way to put it? So if for any kind of joint venture, the way that works is typically joint venture, they'll typically look at the joint venture agreement and see what portion of the joint venture the certified firm is participating or providing. So when they're looking at the utilization for, let's say it's a construction, let's say it's a I don't know, electrical contract, and they have a joint venture. Typically, they'll look at what percentage or what the joint venture agreement details. Typically, a joint venture agreement, they'll describe it. It might be 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever. And then the portion that the certified minority business or certified MWBE business performs would be proportionate to that for that utilization. So if it was a 50-50 and it was a $100,000 contract, the utilization credit would be $50,000. Again, there might be different circumstances where the agency will apply those utilization credits differently. But generally speaking, the contracting agency will determine what utilization credit they apply based on that, based on what the certified MWBE has actually delivered or performed. I hope that answered your question. So you're asking about the funding sources, what federal dollars and state dollars? Yeah. Yeah, we get that question a lot. So when there's federal funds and state funds, and again, a lot of times it's on those transportation projects, like the airports in New York or some of the major highway. In Syracuse, where they're looking at the I-81 project. It's going to be multi-year, multi-billion-dollar project. All throughout the state, we've seen a lot of those transportation projects, and with these new federal dollars coming, we'll obviously see more of that. Typically, when there's federal funds, typically that'll supersede the state funds, and then that way the agencies are they're actually not required to assign any MWBE goals. Now that being said, I know the New York State Department of Transportation, they're always looking for minority participation. So even if they have federal funds, if there's federal funds, they're going to look for that disadvantaged business enterprise, that DBE certification. So that's another great point. Is I always recommend folks, if you're already certified with one organization and you qualify for others, I think it's really beneficial many times to get all the certifications that you're qualified for, because in these situations, as you said, on one project it might be federal funds, but on the other project might be state funds. So if you're MBE certified or MWBE certified with the state and you qualify as a DBE or even the federal 8A, I just encourage folks to get certified with all those, because it really comes down to that source of funding. That's going to determine what goals are assigned and which certification they're going to look for. So that's a great question. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're very happy to be here, but also, I mean, when you look at the firms and the businesses we have certified, we have a variety of businesses. But when you look at how many, Native American or American Indian owned businesses, we really don't have a lot. Uh, so, we definitely encourage, small businesses get those certifications, but also tap into those resources too. I'm a big, earlier, I think it was Kevin. I was like, it's like he's read my mind, because he mentioned everything that I always talk about: networking. He mentioned learning, and that's, I always say invest in yourself, learn through others. You have support system, you have networking. And I think that's really one of the benefits of getting certified, whether it's through the New York State or some of the other entities. You really do have a good network and a lot of good support resources.
As part of your
I think that was on.
okay, just quiet, I guess. As part of your presentation, you indicated that you have to show authority from New York State to do business, and that you're actively conducting business. So, how would you do that if you're a new business and um, just entering the game?
No, that's a great question. So you do. So our certification does require that you're in business for 1 year, but to show activity, that can be anything from showing you filed your paperwork with the county, any kind of registrations you've had to do. To get authority from New York State, that's through the Department of State, and they have a corporations division. Depending on what type of business you have, you would have to register through them. Or again, if you have an LLC, maybe you can submit your registration, your documents for your registrations. You can even submit invoices, maybe advertisements. Really, it's we just want to show that in order to get the certification, you do have to show that you've been paid for those services. So hopefully, as a business, you do have that. But there's a wide variety of ways you can demonstrate activity. As I mentioned, it may be just one of the things is just showing that you've registered your business, you've paid registration fees, you've also maybe created a website, things like that.
I have a question. So, do you offer assistance in filling out the application?
That's a great question. Because we're the division that reviews the application, we don't offer direct assistance, but we did those resources that I provided on the last slide, or the third to last slide. We have partners that will assist you directly with your application. They do a great job. The entrepreneurship assistance centers. There's one in Buffalo. The PTACs, they're all over. There's one in Cattaraugus County. There's one in Rochester. The Small Business Development Center, there's several here in the Buffalo area, Niagara, as well as Buff State. So a lot of these organizations, and there's other organizations, throughout the state, incubators and some chambers of commerce that kind of do it as a value-added service to their members. But yeah, so you definitely have assistance resources out there to help you. What I always recommend is go ahead and go through the application process and upload the documents, and then have someone assist you. Because it's always nice to have a second set of eyes to make sure you have all your documentation in there. So you definitely have resources all over the state that can help you with that.
And I really liked the slide that you had that showed the all the things that sometimes people miss. They forget to sign it or get a document notarized. Do you find that sometimes they add certain documents that aren't necessary, that you could provide that tip of like, don't send this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not directly in our certification. I'm sure they see all types of things. One thing I do recommend. I'm sure. I know. We receive things. For example, that if like the personal net worth statement. It's it's a really simple template. Sometimes they'll send us something complex and something that is really not doesn't align with what we're looking for. For example. So really, and that's where that second set of eyes comes in. When you're submitting your documentation to make sure you're submitting it correctly. But one of the flyers that I'll share is actually titled "Avoiding Common Application Pitfalls." So it gives some examples on here as well. So I'll definitely make sure to provide that, and you can distribute it to all the folks that are registered.
Perfect. We do have a resource table right out here in the
Oh,
hall.
I'll leave. Yeah, I'll leave some.
Yeah, that's a
here.
great resource. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Jack has a question.
Yeah, so I actually just had a question. One of the things that you said that you would you kind of go through in the certification process and you might ask for is documentation on gender. How does the organization approach folks who identify as non-binary or who are transgender or two-spirit, and what kinds of documentation might you require in those situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So some of the documentation, for gender, obviously is a birth certificate. But we also will, we'll accept a simple attestation, a signed attestation. Again, we're not, Article 15A, and that's what our program's based on. It's Executive Law Article 15A. It runs for 5 years, so it doesn't explicitly cover those situations beyond male female. But again, moving forward, and quite frankly, I don't even know if we've had any applicants that fall under that category. But moving forward, we're not trying to exclude anyone, but I believe we are. I mean, there's been discussions, obviously, on how we handle that, but I believe we're going to be accepting signed attestations, for those unique situations. But again, I'll be honest, I don't even know if we've experienced that yet, but I would expect we will if we haven't.
Okay. Any more questions? Alrighty, so we're going to thank you so much, and let's give them a round of applause. We're going to take kind of a short break. I see the lunch has arrived.